What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're doing well, feeling great and enjoying freedom. It's a great day to have a great day. Today, I'm very obviously out in the woods. It's a nice day today. Rare this time of the year here in New Jersey, so I figured why be inside when I can be outside. But today I wanted to talk about something that I found pretty interesting earlier this week. It's about this sociology term called accumulative advantage, and I want to relate that to silver and gold because that's obviously where my mind automatically went. We're gonna get into it, but really quick, just in case you're new, make sure to subscribe for daily videos, subscribe to my second channel for weekly videos, get yourself some DYDSS merchandise to help support the channel. Come and join us in the Precious Metals VIP Club for giveaways, live streams, deal alerts. You can watch Sunday's video right now if you want to, and I just posted a brand new adventure vlog this morning. And of course, last but not least, go and get your 5 free stocks by downloading Webull and funding your account. Usually it's 2. Right now they're giving you 5 just for the next couple of days, so capitalize on that while you can. Everything is linked in the description. Okay, so today is Saturday, March 12th, 2022. I'm actually filming the video on Thursday the 10th, believe it or not, which means I have no idea what the spot price of silver or gold are going to be by the time this video comes out, as I'm filming it about 2 days early. So head on down to the comments and let me know the date and time you're viewing the video and what the current spot price is for you. I'm always curious. Alright, so I wanted to talk about something pretty interesting today, something that I have never talked about, something that I've never even really thought about. But I was finally able to crack open this book that I've been wanting to read since 2013 or 14. I don't know what took me so long, but I finally bought the book in 2019. And as many of you probably know by now, I've been building myself a library in my house. So I don't just have 3 or 4 books, I have closer to 50 books, and I ended up buying books faster than I could read them, so I ended up with a lot. And I stopped buying books so that I can actually catch up and start reading them. And I'm finally reading this book. It's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I actually have the book right here with me. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, The Story of Success. This right here is one of the top 5 most recommended books for people that are entering the world of entrepreneurship. I am currently only on chapter 2, but so far so good, and I actually regret not reading it sooner. So if anybody's interested in reading the book, I will leave a link to it in the description. But in chapter 1, it talked about this sociology term called Accumulative Advantage. And I'll explain what that means. And I'll give 2 examples that are going to sound, right off the bat, they're going to sound like they have nothing to do with silver and gold, because they don't. But don't let yourself miss the point. Make sure you take a chance to look up in the air and you can see the point going over your head. But in the book, when explaining accumulative advantage, very similar to the Matthew effect. Google that, it's actually pretty interesting. The 2 examples they gave, and by the way, remember, I will be relating this to silver and gold. I just want to explain what it means first. So the way it was explained, the 2 examples that they gave was how when children start school, when they get to the age of kindergarten, depending on when they were born, like what month they were born, what part of the calendar year they were born, they might end up missing the cutoff point. So kids that were born toward the end of the calendar year, kind of like myself, I missed the cutoff point when I was supposed to be starting kindergarten, so I ended up starting the following year. As it turns out, apparently I had a little bit of an advantage due to that happening, because as the book explains, kids who end up starting the following year, they're obviously going to be older than a lot of the other kids, just by a couple of months. But when you're 5 or 6 or however old you are in kindergarten, a couple months make a big difference in your maturity level, in your level of intellect, your ability to understand, and all of that adds up. And a lot of the time, kids end up excelling in school a little bit more than the other kids, just for simply missing the cutoff point by starting in kindergarten. So they were, in a weird way, might not make perfect sense, but in a weird way, they were kind of given a little bit of an advantage. Not on purpose, that's just when they were born. But it ripples on out. Sure, it starts in kindergarten, but if they're already slightly more mature or can handle more or are able to understand more, that ripples on out. It's not just kindergarten, it sets them up for success. It already gets the ball rolling a little bit faster than a lot of the other kids. And obviously, it's not every single kid. I was born at the end of the calendar year. I missed the cutoff, and I'm an idiot. I'm not claiming to be this high-level scholar or anything like that, but a lot of the time, it gets the ball rolling, and a lot of the time, that ball continues to roll, and as they get older and older, being that they were given a little bit of a kickstart, it kind of sets them up for even more academic success, which leads to more advanced classes, better grades, more impressive transcripts and whatnot, which can, in theory, propel them in the direction of, scholarships and better colleges and even higher levels of education and whatnot. That's just one example that they gave. Again, it's not every single kid, it's not every single person entering kindergarten, but a lot of the time, it's called accumulative advantage. Because that little advantage from the very beginning, it adds up to even more advantages. The next example they gave, and then we'll get onto the silver and the gold. Again, this might not sound like it makes sense, but it connects later on. The next example they gave was about this youth hockey league in Canada, where something very similar happens with the whole cutoff point, depending on how old you are or when you were born. I don't remember the exact details, but just because I know absolutely nothing about Canadian youth hockey. But the way the book explained it was that a lot of kids miss the cutoff point for this hockey league, and they start the following year. And by that time, similar to the kindergarten cutoff point, by the time they officially get started, they're a little bit older. And when you're a kid, might not make the biggest difference, but it can make a difference. Because if you're a couple months older, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months older than the rest of the kids in the class, or the rest of the kids on the team, might be a little bit older, which could mean might be a little bit bigger, might be a little bit taller, might be a little bit stronger, might be a little bit faster, might have more bone density and strength, and you might end up being a little bit better at hockey because of that. And what they found is, a lot of the time, this is the case. So the kids who started hockey the following year, and they were the bigger, slightly older, slightly more mature kids on the team, it sets them up for athletic success. Because, as it turns out, they end up being, a lot of the time, the star player on the team. And if they end up being the star player on the team, that sets them up for more practice, more coaching, and playing more games. And the more games that they play, the more wins that they get. And the more wins that they get, the cycle continues. They get even more and better coaching, even more and better practice, even more and better games. And then the cycle, once again, it continues. More games, more wins, and then boom, keeps looping around and around and around. And I know this might sound really random, but the book showcased a lot of professional hockey players were born within a 2 to 3 month window from one another. So they started when they were kids, and a lot of them missed the cutoff. And a lot of them ended up being the slightly older, slightly bigger, slightly better kids on the hockey team. Accumulative advantage. Little advantage from the start leads to more advantages, and more advantages and more advantages. Again, I know that sounds very, very random. You might be wondering, what on God's green earth does this have to do with stacking silver and gold? Well, I was thinking about it. After I got done reading that chapter, a lot of the time, I like to take what I read and apply it to what I'm doing. And the conclusion that I came to was that many of us got started stacking a whole lot earlier than a lot of other people. For example, maybe you just got started stacking last week. You know, what an advantage. What a head start. Well, guess what? It is an advantage, and it is a head start. Because guess what? There are people in the world right now that are not going to get started stacking silver and gold for another 5 years, for another 10 years. There are a lot of people today that are being born right now, today. Today is someone's day of birth. They're not going to have any idea what in the world stacking silver or investing or starting a business or anything like that. They're not going to understand anything that has to do with anything like that until they're a little bit older. Maybe until they're 18. So they're not going to get started for another 18 years, potentially. The point I'm trying to get across is that those of us who got started stacking, I like to believe, and this is something that I've always said, I just never really heard of the accumulative advantage concept or phrase. But this is something that I've always thought, and this is something that I've always said. We're already ahead of the game. We've already gotten a head start. We've already been propelled forward, while a lot of other people out there are asleep at the wheel. There are a lot of other people out there who aren't paying attention to what's going on. There are a lot of people out there who aren't even saving currency, let alone saving money, real, true, honest money, silver and gold. There are a lot of people out there who look at their financial situation and they say the same thing about that as they do their physical situation and their mental situation. You want to know what they say? Yeah, I'll get to it tomorrow or next month. Next paycheck, I'll start saving. I want to go to the movies. I want to throw a pizza party. I want to go get a whole bunch of beer. I want to go to the casino. I want to gamble. I want to have some fun. I'll take responsibility next week, next month, next paycheck, next whatever. There are a lot of people who think like that. There are a lot of people who say to themselves or to their families or to whoever that they'll get started eventually. And sure enough, 6 months go by, 6 years go by, 60 years go by, and they say to themselves, oh man, I should have gotten started before. I had an opportunity. I passed up on it because I chose to screw around and have fun instead. I chose to not worry about it. I wanted to live in the moment. I didn't want to prepare for the future. Now I'm living in this moment, and I'm struggling. Those of you who are watching this video right now, especially those of you who have made it this far into the video, you're probably stacking silver and gold, and or you're investing, and or you're running or looking for ways to start a small business of some sort. Point being is that you've probably already gotten started. You're already stacking, you're already investing, you're already looking for ways to increase your financial IQ. You're looking for ways to learn more about the financial world. You are interested in what's going on when it comes to inflation, for example. See, I pay attention to the inflation reports every single month. It's the first thing I do. I look at the report. When I talk to my family about the inflation report, they have no idea what in the world inflation is even looking like. They know that everything is getting more expensive, But if you ask them for the percentage, like, oh, what does the most recent CPI report say? They'll be like, I don't know. You can give them a pop quiz. See, these things are important to know. And there are a lot of people out there who don't pay attention. They'd rather watch their little shows on Netflix or sit around playing games on their phone. They're not paying attention to what's going on. Now, of course, you can go and ask the average person, hey, what's the spot price of silver? That's a little bit more specific. So the average person is very obviously not going to know that. But every single person should know what inflation is looking like, because that's something that applies to everybody. See, the spot price of silver and gold, that doesn't really apply to anybody except for those of us who are stacking or those of us who are investing in, you know, paper silver or whatever. For most people, that doesn't really matter. But inflation, that's something that does matter. And inflation, that's just one example. But the reason I give this example is because we're paying attention to what's going on regarding inflation. We're not just looking at the number. You know, we just found out that inflation for the month of February, 7.9%. But not only do we familiarize ourselves with that right there, well, I won't speak for all of us, I'll speak for myself. I don't just familiarize myself with that specific number. I break down the whole report. I look at the whole thing. I see what's going up, I see what's going down, what's moving sideways, just to get a little bit better of an understanding of, you know, what's going on right now. We pay attention to the different markets, including the markets that we aren't affiliated with. You know, there are a lot of people out there who are exclusively stacking silver and gold, or maybe just one of the two metals, maybe only silver or maybe only gold, maybe not even both metals. Regardless, they're all in on that one thing. But a lot of us pay attention to all of the markets anyway, including the markets that you don't really care a whole lot about. The markets that you're not affiliated with, the markets that you want pretty much nothing to do with. The digital currency market, the real estate market, the stock market. You might not be a fan of any of those things, but many of us still pay attention to them anyway, because it's important to do. And I would say that's a bit of an advantage. Not exactly an advantage that came from, you know, the coincidental month that we were born in. Not that type of advantage. That's not our fault or our choice when we were born. But this is an advantage that I think that we decide on. We decide to get the ball rolling. We decide to get the advantage. And not only do we decide to get that advantage, but that advantage leads to even more advantages. Hence the term, accumulative advantage. It ripples on out. See, a lot of people, they look at me or a lot of people that got started stacking, you know, within the last year or so maybe, they look at me and they're like, oh man, you started a little over 4 years ago, spot price was 17 bucks and it went all the way down to 13, 14 bucks within your first year. A lot of people look at that and say, man, you're lucky for that right there. Which, number one, luck has nothing to do with it. Go and grab one of those t-shirts or hoodies while you have the chance. It goes away on St. Patrick's Day, and it's raising a little bit of money for St. Baldrick's, which is helping children with cancer. Luck has nothing to do with it. Link in the description. That wasn't even on purpose. But a lot of people say, like, man, you were stacking silver in 2017, 2018, 2019, when spot price was so much cheaper than it is today. Very true. But guess what? There were people that got started stacking silver 5, 10, 15 years before me. There are people who today have an average cost of less than $10 an ounce because they were able to get so much silver at $7, $8, $9. I could very easily say, oh man, they got started before me. They're ahead of the game. They got a nice little kickstart. They got that advantage, which led to more advantages. which is called the Accumulative Advantage. But guess what? If you're stacking silver today and you recently got started, if you started stacking silver maybe this year, so just within the last 2 months really, if you got started stacking silver last year, or maybe you got started stacking silver in 2020, which to my understanding is when a lot of the viewers of this channel got started stacking. I think 2020 woke a lot of people up. 2020 was an advantage in disguise for a lot of people. It was a blessing in disguise in a lot of ways. And it wasn't for a lot of people, but it was for the people who decided to capitalize on an opportunity when it presented itself to them. So regardless, maybe you got started stacking silver within the last 2 years. There will be people, years to come, who look at you. If you're talking to them about when you got started, you could say, oh, I started stacking in 2020 or 2021. My average cost is, I don't know, let's just say $24, $25 an ounce. Or maybe even a little bit more. $26, $27, $28 an ounce, because spot price did go up a little bit at one point, or a couple of points, and premiums were a little bit higher. But regardless, maybe your average cost was about $27, $28 an ounce. There will be people, years to come, whose average cost will be $30, $35, $40 per troy ounce. And if you're having a conversation with them about when you started stacking, they're gonna look at you the way that you may or may not look at me when I say that I got started stacking and spot price had gone all the way down to about $13, $14. They're gonna look at you the same way I look at people who were stacking silver when it was under $10 an ounce. That will happen. It's happened time and time and time again. And these opportunities, or should I say these advantages, become more and more obvious the longer you're stacking. Because I've noticed a couple of different things. It's not just that right there about how spot price goes up and then new people come in and then they say, oh, I wish I got started when you got started. It's not just that. That's not the only advantage here. Another big advantage, I would say, is it wakes you up to the fact that we get paid in like monopoly dollars. It wakes you up to what's real and fake when it comes to the financial world. I would say that's an advantage. There are people clocking in and clocking out of work every single day. There are people who still think that we're on the gold standard. There are people who think that our dollar is real money, and they haven't figured out that it's not backed by anything and it's really just a glorified IOU. There are people, and I would say that they're at a disadvantage if they still believe that. But when I say there are people that still think we're on the gold standard, that might sound like I'm being sarcastic or just making something up. No, I had a conversation with a family member just a couple weeks or maybe a couple months ago, and he was letting me know that the dollar is backed by gold, and I told him, I was like, not anymore. And he was like, oh, what, they did away with that? I kid you not, that was his response. And I said, yeah, pretty recently actually, a couple decades ago. He's 3 times my age. I don't know how he didn't know that, but point being is that there are a lot of people that don't understand these things. There are a lot of people who haven't woken up to the fact that the whole monetary system is, I don't want to say rigged against us. Yeah, someone walking their dog. I don't want to be disruptive. I'll head this way. There are people who haven't figured out that their currency is just that. It's currency. Fiat, glorified IOU, debt note dollar bills. That's all they are. That's all they've ever been. Yes, they were backed by gold at one point, But you want to know who made out the best? It wasn't the people who had dollar bills backed by gold. It was people who had dollar bills and also physical gold. Look what happened during the Great Depression. I talk about it all the time. More millionaires were created during the Great Depression than at any other point in history. You want to know what a lot of those people were doing different from everybody else? A lot of them had gold. A lot of them owned apartment buildings and houses that they were renting out. And a lot of them had businesses. And a lot of them were investing in the stock market or index funds or whatever. That's what a lot of them were doing. You want to know what everybody else was doing? The same thing they're doing today. They're asleep at the wheel. They're clocking in, clocking out, going home, and turning on the TV. But those of us over here, yeah, we're clocking in, we're clocking out. I mean, got to keep a roof over our head, and we got to keep food in the fridge, obviously. But I wouldn't say we're asleep at the wheel in any way, shape, or form. In fact, most of us, again, I don't want to speak for everyone, I'll speak for myself, but I just happen to, I've noticed over the years, based on the comments that I receive, a lot of people are maybe not on the same page as me, but at least we're in the same book. And many of us were actively searching for more information. We're actively looking for more ways to diversify. We're actively looking for more ways to set ourselves up for success. We're actively looking for more advantages, and we happen to know, based on our past experiences, those advantages lead to even more advantages. Accumulative advantage. Little advantages, they compound. And if you're familiar with the compound effect, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The compound effect. Small steps in the right direction eventually taking you to where you want to go. And that could mean pretty much anything. It could be in terms of stacking a little bit of silver, a little bit of gold. You might not have a whole lot of currency to get a whole bunch of silver and gold all of the time, as much as you want, whenever you want. Maybe you're someone like me. Maybe you're working with a limited amount of currency, because maybe you unfortunately don't make millions of dollars a year. And you take your paycheck, you pay the bills, you buy the food, you take care of whatever it is that you need to take care of, and with what's left over, maybe you take a portion of that and you put it into silver and gold. Might not seem like very much at the very beginning, or on a month-to-month or a week-to-week basis, however often you're stacking, it might not seem like it's adding up, but it really truly is. It really truly does, over an extended period of time. Might not seem like it. If you can get, let's just say, 10 troy ounces of silver a month. Sure, 10 troy ounces of silver isn't much at all. In the grand scheme of things, it's pretty much nothing. But what happens if it's 10 troy ounces of silver a month every month? By the time a year goes by, boom, look at that. 120 troy ounces of silver. What about you'll let another year go by? Or another 5 years go by? Or what happens if you're stacking, then all of a sudden there's a nice little dip in the spot price, and instead of getting 10 troy ounces, maybe you were able to get, I don't know, 12 troy ounces that month. Meanwhile, maybe you're not only stacking silver and gold, maybe you're investing a little bit as well, and maybe you're running a little part-time side business, just a little something on the side, and maybe that's starting to build, maybe that's starting to compound. Maybe you got a raise at work, and as it turned out, you're able to get a little tiny bit more silver from here on out. So you bump that up to 11 troy ounces of silver a month. It adds up over time. That small pile of silver eventually turns into a mountain of silver. And very similar could be said about gold. And very similar could be said about really whatever else it is that you're working on. Like, for example, investing, an investment portfolio. Maybe you make a monthly contribution to that. Eventually that'll add up. Maybe you started a little business on the side, and once you clock out of work, you go home, you're 9 to 5, you're already clocked out of that, and now you have, a 5 to 9. You work on that for a couple of hours. A couple years go by. That could be something really lucrative. Or it could be something that has nothing to do with money at all, by the way. It could be fitness. You don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I want to become a fit person. And then you eat a salad, you drink a glass of water, and all of a sudden, you know, you're healthy now. No, that takes work. Just like everything else. Stacking takes work. Your job takes work. A business takes work. Investing takes work. Getting healthy, getting into shape, that takes work. Getting a certain job takes work. Getting through school takes work. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're working on, it all takes work. And small steps in the right direction eventually do take you to where you want to go. That's what the compound effect is. So imagine what happens when you intertwine this compound effect with these little advantages. Not advantages that have to do with the month that we were born in, or when we started kindergarten, or when we started playing hockey or anything like that. But the advantages that we choose to have, the ones that we decide to have. What happens if we intertwine the compound effect with those little advantages? What then? Well, that brings us around full circle. That's called accumulative advantage. And again, I know that the book is not about silver. I know that that's not what they were referring to. But anytime I read a book, I like to apply it to whatever it is that I'm working on. Because when I read books, I don't read books for entertainment necessarily. I don't read books just for the sake of reading them. That's not why I read them. When I read a book, I'm looking for my next big idea. I'm looking for my next opportunity. I'm looking for $1 million. I'm flipping through the pages, looking for that next big thing, that next spark. So when I was reading the first chapter of this book, once again, it's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, The Story of Success. If you want to read it, I will leave a link in the description, an Amazon affiliate link. But anyway, when I was reading the first chapter of the book, and I was learning about the Matthew effect and accumulative advantage, these types of things are the things that I like to apply to what I'm working on. I try to figure out how it relates to me, how it relates to what I'm doing, so that I can utilize it as a tool. And hopefully give myself even more of a boost. But anyway, though, those are some of my thoughts on Outliers. Again, if you're interested, I'll leave the link in the description. But I want you guys to head on down to the comments and let me know, number one, have you ever read the book? But two, what are your thoughts on accumulative advantage? Is that something that makes sense to you? Is it something that you agree with? Is it something that you've noticed yourself? Is it something that maybe you're just now noticing because of my video and you're going to utilize it as a tool the way I am? Head on down to the comments and let me know anything and everything related to today's video topic. If you guys liked today's video, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe to my second channel, which is my backup channel for exclusive weekly content. Go and get yourself some DYDSS merchandise to help support the channel in the biggest possible way. We got t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, coffee mugs in a bunch of different designs. We have the limited edition, luck has nothing to do with it, t-shirt and hoodie. Only available until St. Patrick's Day. Get one while you can. A portion of the proceeds are going to St. Baldrick's Foundation, which is helping children with cancer, by the way. DYDSS store will be linked in the description. Come and join us in the Precious Metals VIP Club, which is where I do giveaways every single month, live streams multiple times a week, deal alerts on silver and gold almost every single day. You can watch all of my videos early and commercial free. You can watch Sunday's video right now if you want to. And this morning I just posted a brand new adventure vlog. This is one that you're really going to be interested in. And of course, there are a ton of other perks as well, and I guarantee you the value exceeds the cost. VIP Club link in the description. And of course, last but certainly not least, go and get yourself your 5 free stocks by downloading Webull and funding your account. Normally it's 2 free stocks. They bumped it up to 5 just for the next couple of days. Capitalize on that while you can. And if you refer just one friend, one human being that you know, by March 15th, they will give you 10 free stocks for the referral. This is part of their advertising budget. Rather than wasting currency on billboards and TV commercials, they reward their users for helping them build the app. And if you refer 3 friends by the end of the month, you got a couple weeks left to do this. You only have a couple days left to do the other one. If you refer 3 friends before the end of the month, they will give you a spin on the Webull wheel, which guarantees you at least 1 free share of Apple, with the chance of winning 2, 3, 5, 7, maybe even 10 free shares of Apple. Don't pass up on an opportunity. If you don't want the stocks, go and get them anyway. Sell them. Congratulations, now you have some more silver and gold, or more currency to get silver and gold. Webull link in the description. Time is running out. And I want you guys to head on down to the comments and let me know once again, what are your thoughts on everything shared in today's video? What are your thoughts on the first chapter of the book that I ended up summarizing? Have you read the book? If you haven't and you want to, once again, the link will be in the description. But have you ever heard of Accumulative Advantage? And what are your thoughts on me intertwining it with stacking silver and gold and calling it Accumulative Stacking Advantage? An advantage that we choose to have, an advantage that anybody can choose to have. And it doesn't just have to be about stacking. It could be about investing or just general personal finance. What are your thoughts on that right there? Do you agree with my interpretation? Are you on the same page as me? Do you completely disagree with me? Is it something that you've noticed on your own? Or is it something that maybe you're noticing right now for the first time because of my video? Head on down to the comments and let me know anything and everything related to today's video topic. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Don't you dare stop smiling. Peace.